Let's speak to Rami Khouri now, who's a journalism professor at the American University of Beirut and senior fellow at Harvard's Kennedy School. He's live from Boston. Thank you so much, Rami, for being with us. The nationwide protests in Lebanon have been largely peaceful since they began, unlike in Iraq, for instance. But for the past 2 days, we've seen Lebanon's military finding itself in the middle between anti-government protesters and Hezbollah supporters. Just how dangerous a situation are we looking at?
This is a potentially important turning point, and it could be a turn to the positive to resolve the tensions and the stalemate and come up with a new government and start to address the really serious problems that the country is facing. Or it could be a turn to the negative, to have continued political stalemate, deterioration of the economy, collapse of the Lebanese lira's value, mass increase in poverty, and continued incidents of violence. We don't know which way it's going to go, but it's been 5 weeks now, and none of the dynamics are sustainable. The mass protests, the government inaction, the economic freefall, none of that is sustainable, so something has to happen.
By sending its supporters onto the streets, what message is Hezbollah and its allies sending?
This is exactly what the political class is trying to figure out in Lebanon right now. I've talked to people today, and there's really two theories. One is that this is a show of force by Hezbollah and Amal, who really represent two of the most important movements in the government structure, and who are particular targets of the protesters in terms of maintaining this corrupt and inefficient government system. So one theory is that this is a show of force just before the negotiations begin to create a new government, to maintain a certain role for them in the new government that's created. Another theory is that, no, this is not linked to any kind of political resolution. This is the Hezbollah and Amal and some other people allied with them saying we're fed up with this kind of citizen protest and the issues that it's causing, and we're going to send these people back home, as has happened in the past, where a little bit of rough handling by the young men of Hezbollah and Amal and others has sent protesters back home. So we'll see which way it goes.
Yeah, and the Lebanese army, meanwhile, finds itself in the middle of this. Can it stay neutral if the situation were to degenerate, if things were to get worse? Is there a risk that the Lebanese army could be facing off with Hezbollah's powerful forces?
No, there's no risk of an army-Hezbollah face-off. That's never going to happen. The risk is that the army would get pulled into the tensions on the street and some of the violence, and then perhaps the army would implode from within. It would collapse, and some Shia members, some Christian members, some Sunni members, some Druze members would all leave the army and go form their own militia. This is what happened during the Civil War, when the army collapsed. But I don't think that's going to happen. One of the really important developments since the Syrians left Lebanon in 2005 has been the affirmation of the role of the army and the police and the intelligence in genuinely trying to protect the country and its well-being. And they've avoided getting involved in serious political controversies, as had been the case in the past. And they're trying to play that role today. They've pretty much done a good job of protecting the protesters in most cases, at the same time trying to keep the roads open when the roads are blocked sometimes. The likelihood is they'll be able to maintain that important role because nobody in Lebanon wants the army to suffer.
All right, Rami Khouri, very good to hear your thoughts on this. Thank you so much for joining us. Rami Khouri from the American University of Beirut, joining us there from Boston. Thank you for your time.